Fun fact, did you know that you can openly get yourself a prostitute in Bahrain of Eritrean, Ethiopian, or Filipino descent? Did you know that in Amsterdam you're allowed to wear skinny jeans? Is that something that was a fact that you knew? Another fun fact, did you know that Switzerland lets you oftentimes keep your service weapon once you get out the military? And Austria has crazy relaxed gun laws. They got background checks, but pretty crazy relaxed gun laws when it comes to ownership. I say all that to say this. I don't believe terrorists have attacked the U.S. over the last 30 years or so because of our lap dances, our skinny jeans, or our McDonald's. There's a lot of other countries that have that in common with us. I believe that it has to do with our interventionist mindset when it comes to the military, changing regimes, getting in other folks, kind of like we got don't tread on me here in the States, but we kind of sometimes, they perceive us as treading on others. Now, if Osama bin Laden was to be believed, okay, when it came to reporting the grievances, when it came to Al Qaeda and all those folks, he was a reporter for that type of stuff. That was their main reason, is our interventionist mindset. And I'll give you a few examples. We have to decide if we are playing right into Iran's hand as we continue this debate on whether or not we should use and drop a bunker buster. Have we thought about that? Let's just talk about some successes that we have had when it comes to intervening in crisis around the world. The first one, the easy one, the Persian Gulf. The Persian Gulf War, the Gulf War in 1991. This is when Iraq invaded Kuwait. We went over there and we bounced their asses up out of Kuwait. The Kuwaitis have since given us forever land to have our bases there, and we have a close relations with them. That was a success. Put that up on the bingo board. Then we also have the Panama. U.S. invades Panama to get rid of Manuel Noriega. He was big on drug trafficking, and he was indicted for that. And we bounced his ass up out of leadership of that country. So we take another W that way as well. Another one for us as well has to do with Kosovo. Kosovo, we participated in the bombardment with NATO, and we helped with all the mass genocide that was going on in Kosovo. Us, and along with NATO and the UN Council, we stopped and we were able to formally end hostilities, and we made stuff happen when it came to Kosovo. W. We also got to think about Bosnia. We did intervene in Bosnia. We helped out there with all the atrocities that were going on in Yugoslavia, the independence of Bosnia, 1990, 1992. Another W on the board, a very big W on the board, is we were able to help repeal North Korea's invasion into South Korea in the 1950s. And everybody's kind of on the fence about what it means to be successful. But at the end of the day, there's a South Korea and there's a North Korea. So we take that as a W. So we got a lot of W's when it comes to our intervening and stuff around the world. But, we seem to intervene in a lot of stuff, and sometimes those things are perceived to be failures. One of the biggest ones that doesn't get talked about very often, the Bay of Pigs. The Bay of Pigs, when it came to the U.S. and the CIA intervening, trying to get Fidel Castro bounced up out of Cuba, and we were training some folks. It was an attempt to overthrow Fidel Castro. It kind of transitioned to administrations. It all ended up happening on JFK's watch, but it was one of our worst foreign policies and military failures, even though we didn't directly participate in it. And what was supposed to happen is there was a bunch of expats from Cuba. We trained them in Miami and Nicaragua, and we were going to soften the Cuban Air Force and destroy all their aircraft so that we can basically have those Cuban expats be kind of like Marines. And they would go onto shore, overthrow Fidel, say that they are the new government, and then invite us to come over to Cuba and help get rid of the rest of the government. But we had to be invited. That was our plan. Fidel Castro got wind that was going down, and it ended up not going exactly how we planned. Another one we have to talk about is Lebanon, 1981 through 1984. From 1984, the Reagan administration feared the conflict between the Lebanese factions backed by Syria and Israel, alongside clashes between Israel and the Lebanese Liberation Organization, could escalate into a whole-out Arab-Israeli war. So we kind of went in there. We put U.S. forces in there, And the climax of us deciding to pull out of Lebanon was the Beirut bombing of the Marine barracks in 1983. A lot of us have kind of seen that as a failure, the policy of going into Lebanon. Another thing we think about is the Vietnam War. The reasons why the U.S. failed in defeating the Viet Cong was just a lot of unpopular techniques for our fighting style, Operation Trail Dust, just a lot of different things. You know, this was before we had a armor and stuff for our troops. So that was kind of seen as a failure, our involvement in Vietnam, because we tried to stop the spread of communism, and that was the whole goal. But, you know, we kind of ended up pulling out, and it wasn't very popular. Another one is Iraq. We think about not just specifically Iraq itself, but we're talking about getting rid of Saddam Hussein. Check. We did that. But everything that kind of happened thereafter is something that we may not have completely thought about. We intervened. We forced the government to change. And I don't know if it necessarily changed for the better. And now we're possibly rolling on the same opportunity to do the same thing in Iran. At least that's what the Israelis are saying. So we fast forward and we think about the 20-year war that we had in Afghanistan. But before even thinking about that is the Syrian war. We intervened in that in 2011. We had about 900 troops in the outskirts of Syria, and we encouraged some of the rebels to help overthrow the president there. And let's just say that we've spent a lot of energy there and not necessarily changed for what we thought it should be. Here's the biggest one. Take notice of this. And this is what I think we should prepare ourselves for. 1953, we participated and helped with a coup to help to push out the current government that was in Iran and push a government that would be more favorable and work better with the United States. When we initially did that, it failed, but only a couple months later, it was successful. And because of us, we pushed in kind of like where it kind of stands now when it comes to Iran. And from 1953 to 1979, the people of Iran were not happy that we intervened and helped and got rid of the people that they elected in the 50s and pushed in who we thought should be there. And that kind of led to them making the idiotic choice where we had the Iran hostage crisis, where students in Iran took over the U.S. embassy. They held 52 American hostages for over 400 days. This was under Jimmy Carter. They were released when Reagan came in. But the point being is always intervening in stuff is not necessarily the best thing for us. So the question we ask ourselves is, should the U.S. use a bunker busting bomb to take out Iran's nuclear site? I'm going to tell you right now, I think that there's an 80% chance that we're going to use a bunker buster based on the facts that we know them right now. But if you were asking for my vote will be we shouldn't, based on the facts that we know right now. And I'll tell you why that here in a second, because I'm going to tell you why there's an 80% chance and why I can agree we may want to use it. But at the same time, I kind of want us to pump our brakes about it. Now, one thing I want to say is the administration's kind of been all over the place about whether we support what Israel was doing, whether we didn't. But see, so in March of 2025, the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, she said based on the U.S. intelligence, she believes that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. That was just a few months ago. And so initially we distanced ourselves when Israel went in with missiles on Iran. Marco Rubio was the first one to come out with a statement that says we are not involved in the strikes against Israel, and our top priority is protecting American forces in the region. Rubio said in a statement, Israel advised us that they believed the action was necessary for self-defense. That was we're not involved. They told us and we pulled our troops out type statement. Within days, reports show that the President Trump woke up last Friday, and he saw Fox News giving favorable impressions to what Israel was doing. You know, a lot of people were happy that they were going in and try to get rid of the nuclear weapons, and they were praising Benjamin Netanyahu. And this is one thing I want to say about our president. And I've noticed this, and I kind of am right there with him. I like world-class athletes. I like big, beautiful structures that are built. I like winners, and he likes winners. And he perceived Israel to be on a winning path. And you see his language switch to we. We control the skies, and we've been, doing this assault on Tehran. And he completely have gone against what his Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said just over the last few days. And so that's why I think that there's an 80% chance that we're going to use a bunker buster. I know the president doesn't like that taco meme and that he doesn't want to perceive to have been using that taco meme again. I think that there's a high chance we use it because this has been floating out there for a few days and it doesn't seem to be ruffling a lot of feathers. There's not like a big push from American people like, no, you better not, because I think American people doesn't want boots on the ground. But if, bunker buster, people kind of like, you got to do what you got to do. But I am going to tell you what some of my reservations about this. But before I jump into that, if you like this video, hit that like button. I would appreciate that a ton. Also consider subscribing to the channel because I like talking about all sorts of stuff when it comes to SHTF. And that's where I'm landing the plane here, because all those conflicts, whether successes or failures, still affected the American people. We had to turn some factories that were making basket weaving stuff to, into bullet making farms. And all those interventions, I named everything post-World War II. We decided to get involved in all that stuff. World War II, we were attacked. After that, the Japanese unleashed a monster in World War II. But everything since then, we decided to intervene. And there has been times that our oil prices have went up. Sleeper cells here in America have attacked and done terrorism. We have to worry about scarcity or unavailability of stuff. All sorts of stuff being lost. We've lost blood, sweat, and tears and treasure. And these are the things that we have to consider if we're going to intervene in Iran, because the day one plan might be drop a bunker buster. What's the day two plan? Because if we drop a bunker buster, we get rid of their nuclear program. We in America, plus the rest of the world who doesn't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon, may be satisfied. But what does Israel want to do on day two? Do they want regime change? Do we participate in that? I don't know. I have reservations. I'm no dummy. OK, I am no dummy. I know that Israel is concerned about the possibility of Iran have a nuclear weapon. Let's just learn about their concern with a mishmash that's been put together by The Daily Show, because I think that we can kind of glean on exactly how they're feeling from now all the way back in the day. Let's see.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year. It could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly. If they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
It's so crazy because that goes all the way back to 1995. 1995, Marine X was 9 years old. Now I'm 39 years old. 30 years of they're on the brink. Is it 30 years of crying wolf or 30 years of bad intelligence? Which one it is? But I'm not stupid, guys. Benjamin Netanyahu only has to be right one time. It doesn't matter that going all the way back, it was a hit or a miss or whatever. He only has to be right one time. This could be that one time. Obviously, the president has more information than we do. The prime minister has more information than we do. But based on the information that's out publicly right now, I'm a no vote when it comes to using a bunker buster, but I still think there's an 80% chance that we do it. And I'm going to argue why we should do it here in a second. But I'm open-minded to if you show me that there's no more room for diplomatic efforts, if there's no more room for talking to Iran and putting together some type of agreement, I'm worried about the collateral costs and long-term consequences if we use a bunker buster. Collateral costs. I don't want Iran to wake up sleeper cells here in the United States. I don't want them to have anything in the region, even though we've already been fighting terrorism in the region. But the Houthis, Hamas, anybody that they're supporting, I don't want them to wake them up because we supported using a bunker buster. The takeaway from this conflict is that Israel made this decision, but they don't have the ordnance, the 30,000-pound bomb, or any aircraft that could carry it. We have several aircraft that can carry it. One stealth aircraft, the B-2, that can do it quietly. They don't have any capability to penetrate and get to those nuclear sites. So them making that attack, although we didn't want them to, they're basically expecting Big Brother to take care of it. That's my opinion. Because if you're only taking care of this right now with spies, because they have spies in Iran, drones and missiles, what's your plan for actually stopping their nuclear program? Like putting boots on the ground? That's the only other way you can do it. That's why I think there's an 80% chance of doing it. And here's why I'm going to argue why we should do it. Even if Iran is on 4% able to make a bomb, this is probably the weakest Iran has been in a long time. Have you noticed that the missiles that are attacking Israel are only coming from Iran? You're not getting stuff lobbed from Syria. You're not getting stuff lobbed from Gaza. You're not getting any of their proxies. Their proxies seem to be damn near decapitated. And that shows that they're weak right now. You may have noticed that the Emiratis, that the Saudis are not saying to the Americans, don't intervene in Iran. You know, you shouldn't do anything. It can disturb the Gulf. They're not using that language. Have you noticed that Russia is not overly supplying them or resupplying them or backing them up with any type of defensive capabilities or missiles or weapons? You're not seeing that. So now you're seeing everything that would normally happen in the past. None of those things are happening. So if there was going to ever be a time to strike, it would be right now. But I'm going to tell you guys, I think that there's an 80% chance that we do it. And this is where you need to prep your mindset. I believe that if we do this, a collateral consequence could be sleeper cells being engaged and awakened. And you need to really be more vigilant about that. Hey, I'm always talking about Second Amendment, but I'm also really a big component of pepper gel, different things that can help you get out of a sticky situation, not having to always escalate to using your AR. Speaking of AR, if you don't own an AR in 2025, that's a crazy thing to me as well. I advocate for that because I think we're at the brink now. You just need the ability to always defend yourself. And this is just my opinion about that type of stuff. There's a big chance that we're going to do it. No other country is saying not to do it. A lot of countries are just saying that they want the conflicts to go down. I think that there's a possibility that we can be paying higher oil prices, which means it could be higher gas, higher payment at the pump. There could be other things affected as well when it comes to our treasury now being involved. We're sending a third aircraft carrier to the region, which, to be fair, that third aircraft carrier was already slated for this deployment. They were already going to be going to the region. They were already going to be going to Europe. Now there's a possibility that that third carrier is going to be deploying it deeper into the region. And so the report is that U.S. is sending a third aircraft carrier to the Middle East region. Now, this aircraft carrier was already, the Stryker group was already going to be going to Europe. But now reports is we're going to send it even deeper into the region, which was not necessarily what the initial plans were. So all I can say to you guys is I 100% believe there's a possibility that we're going to be doing it. I mean, look at this big, beautiful ship about to go out there and make it happen once again. And so I just caution you that as you continue to think about your prep, I want you to be super vigilant when it comes to sleeper cells, super vigilant when it comes to your pricing and storage of stuff. Those are my two biggest concerns right now. The politics of we weren't for it and we weren't for it and all this other shit. I'll let y'all gripe like nitpick through all that type of stuff because I'm not particularly interested in figuring out when do we jump on board and when we weren't on board. Right now, the language is we seem like we're on board. OK, President Trump is doing a whole lot of posturing towards Iran. Iran's trying to posture towards us, which seems like a waste of your energy, Iran, because you don't want this smoke. But the point being is I think it's a possibility. I'm going 80-20. If I had to put my money down, if this was Vegas, or if this was the poly market, that would be my guess. Comment down below. What do you think? Bunker busting time or not? I would love to know what your comments down below. If this is your first time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you a part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. For everyone else, we'll speak soon.